Hey gang, do you find yourself listening to your music on one app and then listening to your podcast on another app? If you do, stop this insane behavior right now and download Spotify. Spotify is home to all of your favorite music and all of your favorite podcasts. Podcasts including Fly on the Wall, the Saturday Night Live podcast with Dana Carvey and David Spade, the Rock on Tours podcast with Gary Kemp and Guy Pratt, old favorites like Fresh Air, My Favorite Murder, Wait, Don't Tell Me. Look, if you're looking for a news podcast or sports or entertainment or true crime, look, if you're looking for a sewing podcast or an RV podcast, Spotify has all of this for you. That's Spotify. All of your favorite music and all of your favorite podcasts in one place. Find it in your app store and start listening today. That's Spotify, music and podcasts. Let's get down.
And you may ask yourself, well, how did I get here?
It's time for How Did I Get Here? And now here are your hosts,
When we talked.
All right. Hello, I'm Johnny. I'm your host. Welcome to the show. I hope you guys all had a good weekend, whatever it is you did this weekend. I want to thank all the people that came out Friday night to see Skyrocket at Antone's. That was a really, really fun show. Very great crowd. Very great crowd. It was a fun crowd. People were into that show, and it felt really, really good to play it. I'm in Houston for Christmas, doing the thing. Came in early on Sunday to spend the week here with the fam. My cousin Megan and her son Max are in town. Aunt Christina is here. Everyone's here. Just sitting here in the kitchen. People have eaten egg in a hole that Megan's making. And everyone's getting ready for the big Christmas time. I hope that you're doing the same thing. Gang, I have a great show for you today. Musician, now author, Kenward Cooper is my guest on the show. He just released a book called Rock and Roll Will Only Break Your Heart. And he reached out to me. It's a great book, by the way. Rock and Roll Will Only Break Your Heart is a great book. Fantastic book. And a super fun read. He reached out to me a while back, like 6 weeks ago or something, sent me the book, and it took me a little while to read it, but I wasn't doing anything on Thanksgiving. I just kind of laid low. So I started reading it on the night before Thanksgiving, woke up Thanksgiving morning and started reading the book immediately, and was so into it, I started writing him. I started messaging him on Instagram like at 6 a.m. because he was talking about people I knew, like the guys in Lions and Ghost and all this kind of stuff. I'm talking about this book that I read called Rock and Roll Will Only Break Your Heart, and its author, Ken Cooper. We had a really good, Kenward Cooper. We had a great conversation about this amazing book. This book's great. The dude grew up in Vegas and Los Angeles, and he started a zine when he was like 14 years old that ended up getting advertisement and having all these great interviews with huge rock stars and stuff. He was around the Sunset Strip scene in the 80s there, and then ended up falling in love with this French lady, moving to France, and the book is great. The book is absolutely fantastic, brings in a lot of people that I've ended up knowing. The dude's had brushes with a lot of huge artists like The Killers. Hilary Duff accidentally stole one of his songs, and he receives royalties for that song. It's a great story. Great story. We talk all about it. Go to kenwardcooper.com to get his book, Rock and Roll Will Only Break Your Heart. And gang, I hope you have a great week, great Christmas week. I will be talking to you guys on Friday. Enjoy this conversation with this amazing artist and amazing conversation. The guy's just great. I love Kenward Cooper, and his book, Rock and Roll Will Only Break Your Heart, is great. Go to kenwardcooper.com to get a copy of it, or wherever it is you get the books. All right? I'm talking about this guy, Kenward Cooper, still the same guy. Love you. Enjoy my conversation with this fantastic artist, Kenward Cooper. Let's get down.
There you go.
All right. Hello.
Hey, buddy.
How's it going, man?
Yeah, going good. Mellow holiday as well.
Yeah, what did you do?
Out in Vegas. Joined my mom and my brother. And the resident chef. I had chef duties, so
Oh, nice.
can't argue with that though. I got some skills in the kitchen, so I'm happy to use it.
Having read your book, Rock and Roll Will Only Break Your Heart, how is your brother doing?
Yeah, he's good, man. He's mellow these days, which is nice, and it's good.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: you live in between Vegas and LA?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll come back and forth based on where my work is. I've been focusing on building it up here in Vegas, but it seems more of the work is still happening in LA, so I'm back there a bunch as well. So yeah, kind of in between, and it's only a 4-hour drive, so it's kind of easy to make.
Yeah. It's funny, the rock and roll realtor is a model now with guys around our age and a little bit older and a little bit younger too,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems to be. And it seems like guys our age, musicians, artists, whatnot, they really enjoy talking about the real estate game, It's like this whole other field of interest now to many people.
Yeah.
We're in our 20s, we didn't care much about any of that stuff,
Yeah. So are you still play, right? Do you play out? Do you play shows? What's going on there?
Yeah, so I did a show for the book launch. And definitely looking to do some more of that, mostly get some new material out there. Got some new songs in the works, stuff that needs to be mixed, but things that have been recorded. And we'll see what the avenue is for getting that out, But I think I definitely would like to continue with some live shows and all of that.
Yeah. It's interesting, the approach, because, you go through the whole arc. Like, I'm 54, and I mean, I still write and put out music and stuff, but I'm in a cover band that I've been in for like 20 years, and we do a lot of corporate stuff, and I do mentoring with this nonprofit called the Austin Music Foundation. I've got this podcast. You as you get older, and the way that the business has changed, like, you got no songs out there making you money, and if they do, they make you money for a very finite amount of time.
Right.
So you're either out there slugging it out, playing shows, or selling houses or something. You know what I mean? But it's interesting to see the arc that's sort of the. I felt I identified a lot with it, with this book, and with you, and obviously with your story, with your love of being in love with somebody, and your weird codependent shit that you have going on, and like all this stuff. And like, it's funny because a lot of us are like an archetype of one dude. Like, we're all just one dude. Like, the lead singer, songwriter of a band is just one guy. They just cut us up, split us up. There's Rick Parker in LA. We got you in Vegas. Got me over here in Austin.
Right.
But it's interesting. Do you feel like you're getting better as a writer? Like, you're being able to, like, as an artist, even though you've left sort of the desperation behind, is your relationship with your creativity still strong without the desperation?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe that's true. And I think you don't have to put that pressure on yourself anymore to where it affects the process. I feel I could tap into it more easily without any concern of, well, where's this going to go, or where do I take this? All of that business side of it. It's like, who needs it in terms of actually getting the stuff done, getting the song recorded, written, recorded, out there, whatever the case may be. But yeah, I'd say that's pretty accurate.
Yeah. All right, a couple of quick things. One thing I want to say is I didn't listen to the stuff until today when I finished the book and I got to the end and there's that QR code.
Yeah.
And so it was interesting to sort of have my idea of what your music sounded like while I was reading the book.
Oh, okay.
It's a little weird.
Yeah.
But I thought this the When Summer Turns to Fall song, fucking brilliant song. And B,
wow.
It's a song that sounds like a guy that loves lions and ghosts in the best way possible. It totally does. Like when you know their stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you listen to that song, you're like, oh shit, this dude likes lions and ghosts too. That's so awesome.
Right. And isn't it something where a band like that, there's a certain group of us musicians, us fans, that can really identify with that record, that first record they made. Both of them are solid, but Velvet Kiss, Lick of the Line, man, I mean, solid. It left an impact on them. And it's really interesting and cool when you speak to someone else who recognizes that, who got what that was about. Yeah. And it has you have that same relationship with it. You know, that's the mark of some really great art, wouldn't you say?
Totally. And a song you wrote back about Stay. I have to say this one other thing. Sorry, this is a little scattered getting into it. I was very excited to talk to you, obviously, that I felt so weird yesterday afternoon. I actually talked to my friend Kelly. We were walking our dogs today, and I was like, I totally started writing this dude at 6 o'clock in the morning on fucking Thanksgiving. Like, oh, hey, dude, were you talking about my old guitar player when you talking about this? Oh, hey, dude. Like, and then I realized, like, I don't even know you. That's how, like, your book, your writing style is so personal that, like, I really felt like when I was reading it, we were just talking. It was so odd.
Yeah. Man, that's got to be the coolest thing to hear, though, because I've had people say it flows so good, it's an easy book to read. Yeah. But when I heard you tell me that really resonates, and I'm glad you feel that way. That you got to know me and feel like, shit, I already know this dude based on reading the book. That says a lot. I mean, I really appreciate that and think that's cool.
Yeah, man. And as somebody that reads and listens to a fuckload of music memoirs and talks to people about them, did you have anyone, like, what kind of editing did you have? Like, what kind of person did you have looking over your shoulder?
Yeah, to begin with, so the whole process took a year to really write from first page to the end. So that was a year process. And it was after that, because I did my research and I said, well, I'm not going to just say I'm done and leave it at that. So I did hire a copy editor, and that was the whole other year process where it was fine-tuning things and probably cutting out a lot of shit that would have made me look like an asshole,
man.
No, but,
yeah.
I mean, honestly, though, it's an eye-opener when somebody else dissects your work and you think you've already done a great job, but somebody else is there with outside eyes and pinpointing certain things. And honestly, it's just a blessing to have that extra element so that it does fine-tune everything.
Yeah. It's like a mixer. Like
exactly.
We don't need that extra guitar track in there, man. Come on. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally right. Yeah. Similar process.
Because it does flow really well. Like, I mean, I read it in a couple of mornings, just waking up and like sitting in bed, drinking coffee, reading this story.
Yeah.
Um,
And hey, man, anytime you want to ping me at 6 a.m., don't even sweat it because I'm up at like 5:30 anyway. Yeah, it's all good.
To me, that's a sign of a true rock dude. Like, there's a bunch of rock dudes I know that'll write me like at 7:30 in the morning, like, "Hey, what are you doing?"
Yeah.
Or ask some question. All right, so let's go back.
Yeah,
I want to start with this book is called Rock and Roll Will Only Break Your Heart. Kenward Cooper is his name. Can I call you Ken?
yeah, man,
right.
That's fine.
All right.
Yeah, it's like I feel a lot of people that know me from when I grew up. It's always Ken, and even new people that I meet, when they start calling me Ken, it makes me feel like, oh shit, they're already comfortable,
Yeah.
They're comfortable
cool.
with me to where they feel that's good. So I'm all okay with that. Yeah.
Obviously, I have this very odd comfortability with you. It's upsetting me. It's like disturbing me. All right, before we get into the childhood, really quick, when I had Michael Lockwood on the show, I told you, and we just talked about Line the Ghost, and Rick Parker I knew and hung out with for a long week here in Austin. And when he was talking about them coming back, you listened to the podcast, right?
I did.
Did he say your name during that part?
Not on your episode.
Okay.
He did on a different podcast that I heard beforehand. But so when you were doing that podcast and now you read the book, you were probably putting it all together.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah, there's the book, you're like, and then I got them together to do the thing, and then I'm like, oh shit, I remember him going, like, oh yeah, then I went in to work on this thing that we were both working on, and blah, 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 yeah. Yeah,
that was me. I'm the culprit.
There's a lot of people out there probably freaking out and thanking you. Like the re-release of that album is really a blessing.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, and it sounds killer with the remastering. I mean, yeah, I'm glad it's on a digital platform myself. You know what's funny, man? So it was during the pandemic, Lockwood and I wrote that song, Stay Strong. It's the last song on the set list that you can listen to. And it's funny. He was talking about, oh man, I lost my train of thought there.
You're talking about that you guys wrote this song together? How those guys came back together through you?
Yeah, something like that. It sailed, man. Sorry. I don't know where. You had me thinking about something that occurred during that time.
All right, so when you were a kid, you started a zine.
Yeah.
What year was that?
Oh, man, this was 84, 85 when I started.
Early on.
Yeah, I started one all about thrash metal.
Right.
Yeah, I was into all the heavy shit then.
Yeah.
I listened to everything, but I was really into the louder, the more aggressive, the heavier it was, I was all about it. So did this fanzine on thrash metal. Had some punk stuff in there as well. And it was taking these trips to LA, these family trips that we do like once a year, where I went specifically to this shop on Hollywood Boulevard that sold all this paraphernalia, rock paraphernalia, clothes, tapestries, posters, you name it. So I walk in there, and right by the door is stacks of magazines, flyers by bands, like it's littered on the floor basically, and there is just so much of it, and I'm just picking it all up like a kid in a candy store. And every band, one after the other, looked great. And I'm like, oh shit, there's the phone number. And I started calling all these bands. They had these hotlines where they announced the gigs, and I'm hearing this 13-year-old kid leaving messages on all these bands' answering machines saying how I wanted to hear the band send me the demo and all this. And I'm sure, man, in my little adolescent voice, some of these people must have been thinking, what is this a joke? What is this? But sure enough, I got some stuff in the mail and put together this other magazine. Yeah.
I thought it was so amazing. And you started making money and selling ads and like some label, like I can't remember, some huge like label wanted to get like the back page, do like a full page ad and shit.
I know, MCA Records, man. And my dad, that was his line of work, advertising. So that call came in and he was like, let me handle this. And so, sold that back page. And then started coming in, paid for the printing, and there it is, new magazine for the LAC.
Well, it's so funny because even if there was a book about that, I bet that would be interesting, about like that era of your life, just like Zine Kid and like building that. Is that what was your, you were doing a screenplay, or you wrote a screenplay. It was the coming of age story.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah, called In Between Days, but it doesn't actually, it's not solely based on my time during that timeline.
Although I would watch a show on Netflix. I would watch 52 episodes of a show about a kid in 1984 that had his own zine.
Right.
That just sounds cool as shit, man. Well, what an exciting thing,
Mm-hmm. It very well could be. It could be a episodic series now that you mention it.
100%. There's something so beautiful about that time that, now I'm sure it's the same way that our parents told us about the time when they were that age. But there was such an out until dark, like you left in the morning and you came back when it was time for dinner, and God knows. It's weird how parents handled that, but they did. You were just out.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a bit of that, but also, like, my dad was very involved in the magazine.
Right.
So hands-on. We needed photos. We needed someone to, take photos of these live shows. That was my dad with his camera. So we're there at all these gigs and part of the scene, and he was a networker as well. So before we knew it, we had a little staff of people as well, all into the same stuff with the same goal, just to be in this business, in one way or another.
Yeah. Your folks, was your dad was alive when you finished the book, or was he?
He was, yeah.
Did he read it or no?
No.
Did your mom?
No, he didn't. She hasn't yet. Okay. No, but she was there. Like, I would kind of interview her in a way to, get some of the backstory on. And these are things I heard throughout my childhood.
Sure.
But again, as I was writing, sometimes she'd be there on the other end of the couch, typing away. Just like get some stories from her, So kind of all involved here.
That can be a pretty touchy thing. I had like a year ago. I have a band with. I'm close friends with Kathy Valentine from the Go-Go's, and she wrote a pretty amazing memoir that came out.
Yeah,
I've been
meaning to check that out.
But she, You know, she spoke very candidly about her mom as a parent when she was a teenager, and it wasn't the most flattering jam, you know. But I mean, her mom just passed away sadly a few months ago. But the last time I saw her mom was at a book thing that they did here, like back in January when shit opened back up, and they had she finally got to do an in-store here. That was the last time, and her mom was really proud of her and stuff like that. But that's always, I mean, did that cross your mind? I mean, because you're honest about your parents and your feelings about. Obviously, there's a deep love, just like any sort of family. That's what I loved about that. Your approach to your relationship to your family was by no means glossed over in any way. You had a very honest description of, yes, I love these people, but I do not want them fucking following me around America.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's really the heart of it right there. Yeah. And that was my feeling. It's like, sometimes I think, man, if maybe they weren't so involved or opinionated, you know, with that maybe things would have turned a little differently, or I would have had the insight to not take so much of that, carry it with me in the back of my mind with, you know, which direction I took, you know?
Yeah.
It's, I often hear and read about, you name it, so-and-so entertainer's story. And so many people have, you know, they left home as a teenager and then they were left to figure it out themselves, you know? And sometimes I think, well, maybe that's the way it's supposed to work, you know? But here I was with, like I said, them in my shadow, like every step I turn, it's like, yeah, that's frustrating, but that's part of the story. Yeah, that was my life.
I still kind of like it. I mean, it's ultimately you're like you go through all of the feelings you have for it. Where you know, finally, you know, towards the end of the book, you were there taking care of them, and there's no question about it. You know, the love is really there, but you're very honest about your feelings, which I think a lot of people are scared to say some of that shit out loud. You know?
Yeah, sure. Probably true. You know, and I think had it gone in a different direction, you know, I think a lot of people that are on tour constantly away from home or whatnot, maybe they lose that side of it, that connection with the family. I only heard of so many people that wish, you know, their parents had more of a presence in their life. So who's to say, man? I mean, you can't have it both ways, but that was the way it went for me.
Yeah. So were you running around and seeing bands then sort of in the when did you guys move to LA? Like in the late 80s?
Late 80s.
So you were there for like the heyday of the Sunset Strip, like that, or that heyday of the Sunset Strip. Yeah,
absolutely. Like right in the center when that was still so prominent. It was the scene. I mean, Sunset Boulevard was the hard rock mecca, you know. So yeah, I was very much involved in that. That's mostly what Rockstar magazine focused on. But, you know, also being devoted to that, doing my own thing musically, it was very much removed from that. You know, I wasn't writing songs that were for the next Poison record. You know, I was very much into finding my own style and working with other friends of mine who we were figuring out ourselves, you know, what our vibe was.
Yeah.
Musically.
Well, it seems like there's a good amount of like 120 minutes, it's, sensibility put in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you heard the material now. So when you said earlier that you read in the book and you hadn't listened to the tunes, so what were you thinking I might have sounded like?
Not that far off from what it was.
Okay.
Just from sort of the touchstones of who you worked with and stuff like that, and your love of the Britpop that was happening in the 90s. I had that as well. I still do.
Yeah. I just saw Suede for the first time.
Wow.
And it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Here they are 30, 35 years later from when they first played Los Angeles. And, sure, I would have loved to have seen them on that first tour with Bernard Butler, but watching the band at this stage in their game and for the first time, it was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're great.
Is his voice still high and like? I think
it's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same voice. It's very Bowie-esque as it's always been. Yeah. Yeah. He sounds great.
Yeah. Their album coming up was huge for me. That's when I first heard them. I had a manager that was Scottish, and then all of a sudden I got like plugged into more than just Oasis and Blur. Yeah.
Pulp too. Pulp is a great.
This Is Hardcore is one of my favorite records.
Yeah.
Yeah. And songs, man. That song is sinister and weird and amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, I saw them in New York City at Urban Plaza.
Oh, really?
Another my band. Yeah.
Wow. Dude, and that's a band that I watched this documentary. I think it was on Sheffield. Isn't that where they're from? They're from Sheffield? Or no?
Yeah.
So there was a documentary about music for those guys have been around since like 1983 or something. They've been around for a long time.
Yeah, they put out like some indie records before that deal with the His and Hers record that really broke them.
Yeah. Yeah. So I knowing all of that, I figured A, I would like your music, but B, I figured there would be these sensibilities. I didn't know exactly what it would sound like, but I figured it would have these sort of sensibilities that, because you're a power pop guy too, obviously, working with those guys. Were you ever part of that Largo scene that was going on?
No, man. I've always wanted to do that when it was on Fairfax.
Yeah.
It cracks me up. I don't know if you ever listen to Howard Stern, but there's a guy that comes on the guest on the show, and he's always talking about Largo. Have you heard it? It's like this skit they do, and he puts on this voice. He's like, "We're going down to Largo tonight." It's just hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah, when I went to one of those John Bryan Friday things in like 1997 or something, and just was like, this is heaven for guys like me.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's pretty unbelievable artist. All right, so has Desi read the book?
She just messaged me the other day asking where to find it. So I should be sending her a copy. Yeah. Curious how she'll respond to that, but yeah.
Yeah. It's weird because sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean she's pleased that I'm telling this story, and because essentially it is part of her story as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's a whole, like the relationship musically that I assume still kind of is going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. To a certain degree, yeah. We've been flying tracks back and forth, trying to piece some things together, and we've done a couple tunes that sound really great. But we'll see what the step is to really put it out there.
Yeah. What about, did she keep on doing music on her own and stuff?
She did, yeah.
Yeah.
She had some bands in Chicago after everything. After we all went our separate directions, she did continue to play, and she's always a creative. So as far as I know, she's never stopped. Yeah.
Yeah. People need to read this book. I can't really recommend it enough. And it's easy. It's fast. I got to read this other book, for a podcast now after I finished yours.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't seem as fun. I don't have as much in common with these people.
So no phone calls at 6 a.m.
No. No, not at all. No, that would be that would be weird. All right, so I don't want to talk too much about the book for people that haven't read it, and I'm trying to find a way to talk about this. Talk about sort of your musical career around things. There were these real odd kind of like interactions, your songs having interactions with incredibly popular songs. And the first one,
that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
That's a really good way to put it.
I can't tell if anyone stole anything, and it's weird to just flat out say that, because I've had experiences where I was on a label that was under Elektra, and we had a song that was about phone sex.
Okay.
And one of the label one of the ideas that you go in and they're like, oh, we got it. We're gonna have yours. I can't even remember what it was. You get a free phone sex card with the song. It was some kind of weird thing, and I was like, no, like I don't. That record came out in 2000, so we were in the cusp where they'd be like, hey, do you want to put this in a commercial? And you'd be like, no, that's not cool. And then the next year it became the coolest thing you could do and the only way to get your music out there. So
right.
So 6
was this?
Sorry.
Was this 976 numbers?
It was like yeah. It was exactly right. Okay, so we said no, and I can't remember if it was the company that was involved, whatever. But 6 months later, I'm hanging out, my friends, watching some show, and like maybe behind the music, and the thing comes on, and it's the chorus of my song.
Right. Please tell me you took some action there.
I mean, I talked to my lawyer about it.
Yeah.
And the thing is it's 4 notes. Yeah. Baby, hello. And then theirs was pick up the phone. I mean, it was almost undeniable.
Right there, you already see the place.
I didn't do anything. I might have been very, very high, and I was in shock. And I thought it was funny as shit, because I was like, I didn't want them to do it, but they still did it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Being in that similar situation for me.
It started with the Killers song, right?
No. This was
the Hillary Duff.
This was actually a Hillary Duff song.
Yeah. But there wasn't there a Killers song that had a similar guitar thing in there?
Yeah. There was that as well, but not to the point of where I would have raised any claims about it, you know. But it's one of those things where, sure, look, I was one of the members of that band was under the same roof as me, so we're playing music all the time, and I gave him a cassette of my songs to learn for a gig that he was going to sit in on. So who knows, if things rubbed off. But yeah, I wasn't, with that part, that statement in the book, I wasn't looking to pursue any sort of claim there. But
the Hillary Duff one.
That was pretty blatant and obvious. Yeah. And, I did pursue it with a lawyer, legal claim. And yeah, we settled.
Good.
Basically out of court.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So let me ask you, do you think that's a very common thing? Because you've been signed and records and all this. Do you really feel that's just the name of the game and the way it goes? You think it's more common than not?
I'm sure you mean like just kind of hearing something and it goes through your osmosis, or maybe there's nefarious actual, because I believe that. Right. I mean, we all do it as songwriters all the time. Like start writing a song and you play it for someone and they're like, "Oh my dude, that's this song." And you're like, "Oh shit." You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that happens too. You're right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or you pick up on someone's vibe. Like like there's guys that I have a friend here that when I first saw Jason Mraz, I was like, God, this guy's just lifting this dude's vibe. And it turns out that my friend toured with him. And I was like, oh, well, he totally got his vibe from him. But right. Yeah. So, you've been down here for South by Southwest, huh?
I have.
Yeah?
Yeah, I got a number of buddies that live there in Austin. Probably be coming down in 2023 in March.
Oh, great.
There. So,
is it, music guys here?
Oh, yeah.
Who are they?
My buddy Jimmy has a studio. Do you know Red Horse Ranch?
No.
Jimmy Quill?
I know that name,
yeah. Yeah, he has a studio out there. He's done a lot of records. So maybe we'll all have breakfast at 6 a.m.
Yeah, exactly. We will. So, here was another thing I thought was cool. You worked at some high-end clothing shops.
I did.
And I thought that was really cool. It kind of informed,
it was fun.
When you look at the cover of your book, you see a guy that's not fucking around style-wise. Was that always something for you? Like when you were coming up liking bands, were you cognizant of how cool they looked?
Absolutely, man. Yeah. Being a kid, when you're buying records, you're initially buying them based on how they look. Does this band look cool? They do. I'll buy it. Yeah. That's the criteria. That's how it was as a kid. And, when I started putting bands of my own together, absolutely, I wanted it to have a certain style. Sure. And, not always landed on the same page. Sometimes you have members that they don't find eye to eye with the same fashion. But working in that field, for me, it was definitely something that I wanted to apply to the rock and roll thing. It just comes natural. It comes hand in hand, Yeah. It's all related.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about your time in Nashville. You did some co-writing and stuff there. There were times when I've wanted to do that, but then the real thing is that not that way, and not those, not those songs.
Dude,
yeah.
I don't fucking blame you one bit for thinking that, because my experience with that is, for me, I felt like I was holding myself back in a way, like, you got such and such schedule to meet with a certain writer on this day. So you're going to go into that session with a sense of ideas. And I found myself holding songs back because I knew I would have to I'd be meeting with someone. So instead of finishing songs on my own, which I always had done, here I am thinking, well, maybe I'll just not finish this so I can present it to so-and-so and we'll write it together. We'll finish it together.
Right. Right.
And all that does is slow you down,
Yeah. It can,
That's how I was looking at it.
It also really depends on what you want to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Like there's people like, do you know Mary Gauthier?
No.
Fabulous, amazing songwriter and a Nashville kind of person. And some people have done her songs, some big people, but she doesn't go and do the 10 and 2 or whatever it's called. Every 2 hours, write some song about sitting in the back of a truck drinking beer with your person or whatever. But I don't know. I mean, to me, there's a part of me that's romanticized being able to do that, but then there's like the actual stuff people come up with. I mean, organic co-writes are great. I do it a lot. I learned a lot, like, writing that one song with Rick Parker and then writing a bunch of songs with Jane Whelan and Charlotte Caffey from the Go-Go's or this guy. Do you ever get into Wire Train?
Familiar with them, yeah.
Me and Kevin Hunter, the guy from that band, wrote a bunch of stuff together. And I learned so much and it was so great and creative. But then that sort of like forced, we've got to say, you know what I mean? There've been a couple of times where I've gotten with people to write some teenager song in the 2000s when Avril Lavigne and shit was happening. And I felt like I was being fisted. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
While I was doing it.
Right.
It didn't feel good. It wasn't the normal feeling you get from writing a song, which is the best feeling available.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't feel you missed out on anything, having not done the Nashville experience. Yeah.
No, and I talked to this guy. I can't remember what his name is, Tebe or something like that. But he ended up writing, like going off and writing with like Max Martin and stuff like those.
Is that right?
The Swedish folks, and he was in that machine, and he loved it. Didn't feel bad about it at all. Really, like he excels in it, and he's good at whatever top line. He's the good. Everyone has a different role now. That's all. How do you listen to music? I
will still buy vinyl. I will buy.
Did you get a record player?
Yeah, I did. I finally got
a scene in the book where you're buying records with no turntable. I thought that was amazing.
That's right. Yeah, I got the record player now.
Yeah,
and making use of it. So that's still the way I like to really play a record.
Yeah,
is vinyl. Flip it over, the whole experience. The big 12-inch in your hand, and the liner notes and all that.
Yeah.
But I like XM radio too, and just putting on first wave and whatever station it is. But the thing with that is you're hearing the hits, you're hearing the songs you already know. But as far as new music, I like to buy records still.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really grateful for this show because for the last, 11 years, I've been forced to listen to new music a couple times a week at least. And that's been very healthy because nowadays you don't ever have to engage with anything you don't like. You don't ever have to watch anything new you've never watched, but you don't like. You really don't. And there's a lot of people that have taken the road of like, no, I only listen to classic rock now all the time, and I've cut out the bands I don't like. So I've got playlists without CCR or whatever. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. It is a luxury to just have that ability now.
Yeah, but it's kind of I think it's reflected. I think it's reflected in mainstream music and how it feels so disposable, because that's all that's kind of left. Like, we've put importance on stuff that happened a long time ago, but everything now is just like a text message or an emoji or something like that has that much weight anymore.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from.
Yeah. It's odd. There was a thing I was going to say. You had a podcast like before Joe Rogan. Like,
yeah, that's true, man. I did.
Glambone.
And it was Glambone. Yeah. And it was another extension of the magazine. It was like, if I were to do the magazine, what would it be today? And that was a podcast. So it really was spotlighting that era, the bands of that time, taking the piss out on some, having fun with it, but also really champion it as well.
Yeah.
And I did it for 10 years, man. But the thing with that is, it was pretty much a disguise, because I did it all on laptop. I'm using sound effects.
Yeah.
I'm using a helium effect on my voice. So I sound like Mickey Mouse. And maybe some people were thinking, they can't take this shit seriously. But on the flip side, the diehards, the people that love that era and that type of music and those bands, they fucking loved it, you know? So it found its little niche, but how to have taken it from bedroom to the next level was lost on me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, podcasts are the norm, and it's like, it's the thing today.
Yeah.
To get an interview, to discover someone new. So, hey man, props to you for keeping it going the way you've been doing yours and all that. You've had great guests, and it's pretty entertaining show. So
thanks, man.
A+. Yeah.
How did you hear about it? Because you reached out to me, right? Yeah.
I did. Yeah.
Okay, so that's why when I was reading your book, I asked you, did you like if I was you and I heard that Michael Lockwood thing, I'd be like, shit, I should reach out to this guy.
Yeah. Something came up on a feed I was looking at, like-minded artists, and
oh, nice.
So came across it that way, basically.
Yeah.
Had my eye on it.
Well, it's hard, it's like I started mine in 2011. I wouldn't start one now. The field is so crowded that I don't even know, and I'm really lucky that I got some sort of footing before it got kind of crowded. I've lucked out, really.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah.
But it's all part of the story, just a little too early to the party.
That's what you were. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, dude, I have to tell you, it was, again, it was such an enjoyable pleasure reading your book and your story. You're so honest. And you were saying earlier that they edited out some stuff that would have made you really look like an asshole. And I was going to say, there's some, you're very honest about yourself, your own shortcomings and stuff in there. But you do see the growth of a person, and by the end of it, you're very proud of where you ended up.
Yeah.
So yeah, good job.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. I'm glad you picked up on those points and it resonated with you.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And yeah, when you come to South by South, I'd love to meet up, have breakfast, chat.
Same. Yeah, for sure. Are you going to be playing? Do you know what you're going to be doing?
Probably not. I haven't put anything out since last year. And there's like, it's funny because when you live here, and you might be able to relate to this with some other stuff, but there's this thing where like you play South by Southwest every year, no matter what, because you don't want to not play it, but you don't really need to be playing it. You're just doing it because you don't want to not be. So I finally got over that like 10 years ago where I was like, I don't need to play.
Sure.
I can just go out and see stuff and do some podcasts and stuff. So if something comes up and I need to, I will. But otherwise, no, I usually leave that weekend open to play some private shit with the cover band I'm in.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So why don't we do this? Why don't we, when I come out there, we'll set up to do a co-write together and we'll pretend we're in Nashville.
That'll be great, but we'll write a really great song. I've got a great space in here. Like, I don't know if you can see it, but I got all kinds of guitars and Rhodes and piano and organs and stuff. Yeah.
Sure. It looks good, man.
Yeah, man. Well, we'll stay in touch. This has been great talking to you. Do you have an actual website? Is there?
Just the real estate one.
Okay.
Yeah.
But this book, the book people can find on Amazon, wherever it is that they get books.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
I want to recommend it. Honestly, anybody who's been cursed with having a dream. And they'll do anything to achieve that dream. And then they realize that that the journey has really been the experience. And it's not really the brass ring at the end. You know, it's not the gold watch at the end of the thing. It's the years you put in the job. And that's really, really, it's entertaining. It moves well. There's a beautiful love story that goes through it, and I'm glad that you and Desi still talk and stuff. That's a good thing to know. It's a great book. It's a fun read. You're a great writer. You feel like you very early on into the book. You feel like it's just
awesome.
Telling you a story. So yeah.
Thanks so much, Johnny.
Yeah, man.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah. This will be up in a couple weeks. I'll send you links and stuff to it, but it has been a real pleasure talking to you and meeting you. And let's stay in touch. Yeah.
Yeah, let's do.
Yeah.
All right. Appreciate it, man.
All right, buddy.
Good to see you.
Talk to you soon.
Thanks. All right.
Beauty can't compete with the weed.
That was Kenward Cooper. His book, Rock and Roll Will Only Break Your Heart, available now wherever it is you get your books. You can go to kenwardcooper.com to get involved with him, his music, and his book. I had a great time talking to him. What am I talking about? I'm still talking about the same guy in the same book, Kenward Cooper, and his book, Rock and Roll Will Only Break Your Heart. Story in music, he's a great dude, man. Go to kenwardcooper.com and get involved. Hey, gang, don't forget when you're out there checking out kenwardcooper.com, you can subscribe to this podcast wherever it is that you stream and download podcasts, be it Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, Overcast, Stitcher, anywhere. New shows every Tuesday and every Friday. Sometimes we drop it from the vault on Saturday nights late. People are enjoying that Trisha's episode. If you did not hear it, get out there and listen to it. It's the funniest podcast I ever had. Okay? All right. Thanks for listening to the show. Have a great week. Let's get down.